What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is an updated guide on how to improve your mechanics fast in Fortnite Chapter 3. This video is going to have 3 different sections. We're going to start off with building and editing, which are combined into one section. Then we'll be going over aiming. And finally, guys, after that, I'll go over some miscellaneous practice methods to help practice all aspects of your gameplay at one time. Before we get into it, though, be sure to drop a like if this video helps you out, and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more tips and tricks content just like this in the future. And last thing before we get into it, if you do enjoy my content and you want to go that extra step to show your support, then consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's 100% free and it really does help me out a bunch. But with that said though, and without further ado, let's get into today's video. So with that said, guys, the absolute best way to improve your mechanical skill in all senses is definitely going to be drills, but more specifically drills that actually utilize techniques that you can use in game. Specificity is really key when it comes to improving your mechanics, so practicing exactly what you want to improve should be the goal. In turn, that means we're looking less on the side of like the edit courses and such, and more on the side of like piece control and realistic editing drills and things of that nature. So getting straight into it, we're going to be starting off with some building and editing strategies and some of my favorite ways to improve your building and editing overall. The first map that I'm going to recommend you guys in this video to improve your building and editing is going to be Tito's realistic edit and piece control map. I have shown this map quite a few times before on the channel, but it still remains one of my personal favorite maps when it comes to improving building and editing, especially at a more beginner to intermediate level. There are an absolute ton of different scenarios in this map, but the one continuity between all of them is the fact that they all include a realistic set of builds and edits that you're going to use in real games, and all of them also have a target to shoot at. I guess you can technically say this can also help with your aim, since it does have the target and allows you to practice building and editing into shots, but I'd still say that the main focus is building and editing, so I'm just calling it that. The scenarios also range from easy to advanced, so whether you're just starting out or you're looking for a serious challenge, this map should have you set. Overall though, Tito's map really fits perfectly as part of a warm-up routine or something to do after a few games when you're getting a bit tired but you kind of want to get more practice in. So with that said, I'll throw up the code on screen right now for Tito's map if you want to write it down. Moving on to our next strategy to improve your mechanics though, and what we're going to be covering is an incredible new map by the notorious Raider464, which is called Raider's Mechanics Practice Map V2. As you'd expect with a mechanics practice map, this map is absolutely insane for improving your building and editing, and even aim as well in a way. There's quite a bit to cover, so I'll try to go through it all pretty quickly. Starting off, you've got editing from different angles, which is exactly what it sounds like. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to be teleported to a random spot next to a wall. You're going to want to make an optimal edit, and then you're going to be teleported to another random position, rinse and repeat. And what this does is basically help you improve your editing from all sorts of weird and unusual angles. That's one of the most unique scenarios. And then you've got the peak shots, which are essentially just targets that you edit on and shoot like you would in a real game, or I guess like you would in a box fight. Then you've got piece control tunnels, just like the ones in his piece control maps, where you can basically practice piece controlling all around you, and edit towers, which help you improve your overall editing speed. After that, we've got build replace, which essentially allows you to practice taking builds as you would in a box fight from all sorts of angles. This is actually brand new and a really unique section, but also a super useful one. After that, guys, we've got crosshair training, where basically your main goal is to make your edit pattern as efficient as possible and edit that way, basically in order to edit faster. So basically it's going to have you go through each tile really slowly. You can kind of see the like pattern that it wants you to follow, and basically you want to follow that pattern so you can select every edit tile as efficiently as possible, and in turn that helps you edit way faster. And then you've got the piece control fundamentals section, which has all sorts of piece control scenarios that you can use to improve your building and editing. And finally, guys, the last bit of this map is free building, where you can basically just modify your speed and free build to work on all sorts of building and editing. Overall, guys, Raider's Mechanics map is pretty much brand new when I'm making this video, as it's only been out for around a week, but it does have some of the most insanely useful scenarios for improving all areas of your gameplay, especially when it comes to building and editing. So with that said, guys, if you do want to try this map out for yourself, I'm going to put the code up on screen right now. Alrighty, guys, so at this point in the video, we've covered 2 of my top maps for improving your building and editing, and those should definitely help you out a lot in those areas. So next up in the video, we're going to be going over the best way to improve your aim as well, since that's the next mechanic that you're going to want to get good with for obvious reasons. And I think that unarguably one of, if not the best way to improve your aim in Fortnite Chapter 3 is going to be aim duels, especially with how close range most fights are this season, and the fact that SMGs are still wildly overpowered even after they got nerfed. Aim duels are pretty much the perfect storm if you're trying to dominate at this time in Fortnite. So we'll be looping straight back to our boy Raider464 and doing his 1v1 aim trainer. I have covered this map before, but the basic premise is that you and your opponent get the same weapon, you get the same HP, and you're basically just going to shoot each other over and over until one of you dies. So typically I'm going to get 2,000 or 4,000 HP with my opponent, and depending on the scenario, I'm either going to use an SMG, shotgun, or an AR if I'm doing like a longer range scenario like the gliders. The appeal in doing aim duels is that you can basically simulate so many different things, and you're against a real player, making it one of the most realistic forms of aim training possible. Obviously, training your aim against another real human being is much more effective than kind of just shooting at targets randomly. So with that said, if you're going to choose one method to improve your aim in all sorts of situations this season, I definitely think that Raiders aim duel map is going to do you well. You can also choose to play with a friend, or if you don't have any friends, you can simply hop into the matchmaking portal in the map and be paired with a random player. Whichever way you decide to do it, whether you have a friend or a completely random person for matchmaking, this map is absolutely incredible for improving your aim, and I think that it's probably the only map that you're going to need at this point in time. So if you want to check out Raiders map, I'm going to throw the code up on screen right now. So finally guys, getting into the last section of today's video, I want to discuss a few ways to improve all areas of your mechanics at the same time. Now obviously practicing your builds and edits in creative or doing some aim duels or anything like that, that's all great, but I do think that a lot of players tend to overlook the more simple and fundamental methods, you know, those things that allow you to improve your mechanics all at once in so many different situations. So honestly guys, getting into this section, the biggest recommendation I can give you all is to simply fight, and then fight some more. Whatever type of fights you prefer in Fortnite, whether that's zone wars, build fights, box fights, arena, or even realistic 1v1s, simply fighting against other players over and over is going to be a good way to improve your mechanics, simply because you're applying your mechanical skill to so many different scenarios. So overall guys, if you do want to improve your mechanics, the maps that we've covered are obviously amazing, but make sure that you're not slacking on your actual fights. That way you can help apply your mechanics to real situations. The next tip that I have for improving your mechanics is one of the most critical ones that so many players seem to miss out on, and that's learning from pros. I really don't know why this is the case, but it seems like so many players want to learn how to improve and play like the pros, but then they proceed to not actually learn from the pros when there are literally thousands of hours of pro gameplay out there to learn from. If you're trying to improve your mechanics, especially when it comes to fighting in real game situations, reviewing some pro gameplay and figuring out what they do will be super valuable. I really recommend you take some time to review some pro gameplay, whether that's an in-game tournament VOD, a Twitch stream, a YouTube video, or whatever else you can find. And what this will do is it'll allow you to find new techniques to practice, learn different strategies that work against skilled opponents, and in turn you're going to become a much better player and a much better fighter. And it goes so far beyond building and editing fast and having good aim, since this actually gives you the chance to learn how pros actually apply these skills in the most effective way possible. So overall guys, if you're not watching pros to improve your mechanics and to improve at fighting in Fortnite, then you are missing out. And finally guys, getting into our last tip for this video, and that's simply to train your mechanics during your warm-up. I'm personally of the belief that when you first get on is the best time to practice your mechanics, because it not only allows you to go in with a clear head, but you also get effectively warmed up and primed to do the exact thing that you're trying to work on before you get into the game. Basically, if you do something over and over, like your mechanics practice, before you actually get into the game, it'll be right there in your short-term memory, and you're going to be much more likely to actually do better with the things you started off with when you first got on. So in a way, it essentially primes you to do what you're trying to do better in the real game. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm ultimately saying here is basically to try and do your mechanics practice, or at least some of it, before you get into the actual game and do something like arena or scrims. But with all that said guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on how to improve your mechanics fast in Fortnite Chapter 3. Overall, by using the maps I discussed and by following the tips I gave in this video, you should be well on your way to building and editing faster and having better aim, and you should also be able to apply these skills more effectively where they actually matter, aka the real game. If this video did help you out, then be sure to drop a like on it, and consider subscribing as well if you want to see more content just like this in the future. And lastly, if you want to help your boy out a bit extra, then consider using code Teckoh in the Fortnite item shop, as it's 100% free and it really does help me out a ton. With that said though, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye for now.